Our big focus this morning, Iran is no stranger to street protests, but several factors surrounding the current unrest make it very serious. Iranian police and security forces have responded violently almost from the outset, and reports by human rights groups claim that more than 20 people have already been killed as massive protests erupt across Iran as anti-government protests escalate. Large anti-government demonstrations are taking place across Iran, including in the capital city, Tehran. It's in fact the 12th night protesters have taken to the streets as millions of Iranians are grappling with rampant inflation, plummeting currency, and thousands have taken to the streets in demonstrations that turned violent after the deployment of government security forces. Iran's state broadcaster IRIB's building was set on fire by civilian protesters in Isfahan, that's in central Iran. Meanwhile, chants of death to the dictators have been heard in Iran, and the country's state broadcasting building has gone up in flames, as is evident in the visuals that are playing out on your screens at the moment. There were also several pro-monarchy slogans chanted in the capital city of Tehran. Long live Shah chants rang through the streets of Tehran as the exiled Crown Prince gave repeated calls for the protesters to take to the streets. And videos like this one show protesters raising the Lion and Sun flag of Iran at a major square in the city to loud cheers from protesters. The protesters were heard chanting "Long live the King" in Persian, which is a nod to the pre-1979 Pahlavi monarchy. The flag featuring the Lion and Sun emblem was the official flag of Iran before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, and protesters also targeted Mashhad, the birthplace of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei, with demonstrators chanting anti-regime slogans, tearing down flags, and blocking streets in his hometown, signaling significant dissent in a key regime stronghold. Meanwhile, international sanctions led by the United States have played a major role in worsening the economic conditions in Iran, but they are not the full story. Many Iranians believe that certain officials and their relatives benefit directly from sanctions through special arrangements that allow them to profit from trade, oil revenue, money laundering networks. Iranian protesters have stepped up their challenge to the clerical leadership with the biggest protest yet of nearly 2 weeks of rallies as authorities cut internet access and the death toll from this crackdown mounts. This, as the government has said, that solving the economic crisis afflicting the country is largely out of its hands, and that while it will work to tackle corruption and the rising prices, it has few tools to use. It's blamed the economic woes of the country on external factors, primarily the harsh sanctions placed on Iran, mainly by the West in response to Iran's nuclear program. But at least 34 protesters and 4 security personnel have been killed during this unrest, and 2,200 protesters have now been arrested. This is what US-based human rights activist news agency is reporting. And the movement, which originated with a shutdown on the Tehran bazaar on the 28th of December after the real currency plunged to record lows, has spread nationwide, as you can see through these visuals, and is now being marked by large-scale demonstrations, including in the capital. The exiled Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, has called the protesters his courageous compatriots, urging them to take to the streets. And now all eyes are on Trump, as the US president directly warns Iran's leaders about the treatment of protesters, because he has said if rioters are killed, the US will strike Iran. Listen in to what Iran's exiled Crown Prince has said, followed by the US Vice President's reaction.
و قطعا توجه کردید که ازدحام جمعیت باعث این میشه که نیروها پس بروند و امکان ریزش رو به سمت شما بیشتر میکنن. بنابراین مهم استش که این انضباط و گستردگی رو حفظ بکنیم. من اولین فراخوان خود را امروز با شما در میان میگذارم و از شما دعوت میکنم که این جمعه و پنجشنبه 18 و 19 دی ماه را سر ساعت 8 شب همگی چه در خیابان‌ها یا حتی از منازل خودتون شروع به شعار سر دادن بکنید. در نتیجه بازخورد این حرکت‌ها من فراخوان‌های بعدی رو به شما اعلام خواهم کرد.
We certainly stand by anybody who's engaged in peaceful protests, anybody who's trying to exert their rights for free association and to have their voices heard. Obviously, the Iranian regime has a lot of problems, and as the President of the United States has said, the smartest thing for them to have done, it was true 2 months ago, it's true today, is for them to actually have a real negotiation with the United States about what we need to see when it comes to their nuclear program. I'll let the President speak to what we're going to do in the future, but we certainly stand with anybody across the world, including the Iranian people who are advocating for their rights.
Interesting, you must note, Iranian state media is downplaying the scale of the protests and in some case has also been denying that they're taking place altogether. Aditya Raj Kaul has been tracking all the finer developments as far as Iran is concerned. He joins us with further clarity at the moment. Aditya, as you've been reporting, protests are spreading into ethnic regions, Kurdish areas, western provinces. Take us through what's happening at the moment and what risks does that pose for regional spillover?
Well, unprecedented protest really, and this is certainly marking instability in the Middle East really. We've seen the 12-day war between Israel and Iran a few months ago that was supported by the United States. And of course, the B-2 bombers were brought in to strike the nuclear sites. But now a civilian uprising underway in Iran with protests not just in the capital city of Tehran, but all across Iran. We had several buildings being gutted last night. It was the day 18th of the protest, and now thousands of people marching, campaigning, and in fact chanting slogans of freedom. And they're also saying death to the dictator. And that is, of course, referring to the Iranian regime, the Mullah regime. And now we'll have to wait and watch how things unfold. Donald Trump, of course, has come out and said that the United States is monitoring the developments very closely, and we will hit them very hard if the civilians continue to rise. There are some reports emerging that more than 30 people have died till now in the last 18 days of the protests that have escalated all across. But now the Iranian regime has shut down the internet since last night. That clearly indicates the kind of suffocation that the regime might be facing because of the scale and the breadth of the protests all across. People from all walks of life are protesting at the cost of being jailed or being imprisoned for a lifetime or even facing death. So at this moment, the pressure is really rising on the Iranian regime, and we are waiting for the next few days that could ultimately decide the fate of the Mullah regime and, of course, the civilian protesters. As of now, it doesn't seem like that the protests are going to end anytime soon.
Aditya, as always, thanks so much. We'll continue to track the latest developments as far as Iran is concerned with you. Meanwhile, for now, let's turn our attention to how this protest started, how it panned out since the past 12 days as Iran's economic crisis intensifies. The economy is in deep trouble with little prospect for growth this year or next. A collapsing currency, mass strikes, deadly clashes have triggered the most serious nationwide unrest in years. Just to put the numbers in perspective for you, official annual inflation stands at around 42%. 42%. Food inflation exceeds 70%, and some basic goods have reportedly risen in price by more than 110%. My colleague Arjun is here to take us through how the protests spread day by day. It's over to you, Arjun.
Viewers, Iran economy is in deep trouble, as we all know, with little prospect for growth this year or even the next. Now, official annual inflation, in fact, it starts at with official inflation is almost at 42%. Now, this is a mixture of straight up economic losses, protests by the traders, the fabled bazaar traders, and of course the subsequent crackdown, in fact, by the Khamenei administration. So let's take you through what happened day after day straight from the 28th of December, when these protests initially broke out at two of the very prominent markets in Tehran. And mind you, all of these visuals, viewers, we have for you correspond to the exact day and the events that took place on that very day. First and foremost, Riyal hit a record low of 1.45 million per one for every $1. What does this mean? This means that the value of $1 was equivalent to 1.45 million riyals. Next up, what the effect of this was dire. Merchants at Tehran's fabled Aladdin and Charsu markets they downed their shutters. This is day one. It's the economy that breaks the camel's back when the riyal in fact collapses 1.4 million to $1 American, mind you. Tehran shuts down and anger in fact spills onto the streets. Then we proceed to the 29th of December, where strikes expand to Tehran's Grand Bazaar. This is the same bazaar mentioned in movies, Tehran's famous Grand Bazaar. What does this do? Tehran's Tankman video then goes viral, as you see right here. By day two, the unrest spreads really fast. Iconic images like the one you see here go viral. A man sitting on the road against the police force, not letting them pass. Now, a video shared with Iran International right here shows one protester sitting in the middle of the street, the very middle of the street, viewers, and refusing to move as a motorbike riding security force moved in on the demonstrators. Now we move in to the 30th of December, where students from major universities across the country join in the protests. Very importantly, viewers, this is the day when the protests actually went national. They spread across the length and breadth of Iran. Security forces were forced to fire on the protesters in Hamadan province. Now on day three, there were clashes reported from Hamadan. On the succeeding day, on the 31st of December, the government shut down businesses in 21 out of the 30-odd provinces in Iran. Now, the first fatalities were also confirmed in Fasa and Khuddash provinces. The government also closed businesses as the first fatalities were just confirmed. Come New Year, and Tehran's vegetable market workers now joined the strikes that were in fact initially limited to the Grand Bazaar and other markets. Not only this, but more fatalities we are giving to learn were also recorded on the 1st. You have it right here. Fatalities were reported in the Lodejan region. They were also reported from the Charmahal and the Bakhtiari provinces in southwestern Iran. Now, on the 3rd of January, viewers, Trump initially warns of US intervention. There's also a 35% drop in internet traffic due to constant power outages. Now, this is day 7. The crisis goes global and Iranians start losing access to the outside world. By the 6th of January, exiled Kurdish political groups start calling for a general strike. This is when the Iranian government actually promises a relief or a handout of $7 a month, which only makes things worse from them. Troops reportedly abandoned Abdaman and Malik Shah cities. So we also start getting reports of troop abandoning cities to protesters, which subsequently we were getting to learn that the administration took control of both of these sites yet again. Now, in the latest, exiled Prince Reza Pahlavi, as we were just hearing, has called for nationwide protests. And also there's an internet blackout that has been imposed across the country, viewers, and protests have flared up. Back to you.
Arjun, as always, thank you so much for summarizing the key takeaways for us and painting a clear picture of how exactly things have transpired.